August 2nd, 2016. I'm just trying to think of all the things that have happened today and my thoughts about them, but I guess to start things off, the morning was getting myself to Victoria Station, which has kind of seemed over the past few days like almost like home base. It's where the free Wi-Fi is. It's one of the reasons. But also because it just seems to be like everything kind of happens around that area. So I managed to get there in time, well, with plenty of time, because I really didn't want to miss out on what I had planned for this morning. And that was the trip to Stonehenge. And it worked out really well. Like, I think I mentioned in the blog post last night that it was something that I had found through an app called Head Out. And it gave me this discounted price to, I think it's meant for locals, but it's like touristy things for locals. And with that comes, this discount. So for the trip, it was like I could not have even gotten close to doing it for, like, on my own for the price that I paid. And it was essentially just a bus that went to Stonehenge and then 2 hours later returned, and it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. It was like point to point, no real stops in between. And it saved a lot of money. So yay. The trip itself, it's like it's about 2 hours from Victoria Station in London to Stonehenge. It was really cool because you just, after about 2 hours, you just kind of, Stonehenge is right up next to a highway, so you're just driving down the highway, and then on the right, like, it feels almost like you can just reach out and touch it from the highway. And there it is, and then you keep driving past it, and then you go into a visitor center and stuff. And then they, and they put you on another, you can walk, but it's like 2 kilometers, and it's kind of spitting and windy, and it's the UK, so it's cold. And the shuttle bus is just included in the ticket price, which was included in the price that I had paid for this bus. So I hopped on the shuttle bus, and then a few minutes later you arrive at Stonehenge, and then you can walk all around it, and you can see. One of the things that I didn't know about Stonehenge was that it's actually, like, there's lots of other sites around Stonehenge that were quite important as well. So you can sort of stand at Stonehenge or walk around all these other sites in these sort of paddocks, I guess. And you can see how these people lived like 3,500 years ago. It's got a lot of history, and it's pretty crazy that I think it's still kind of all up in the air. Like, nobody really knows what it was all for, but they know that there's all these... they have all these little pieces that they can't really put together coherently yet. And that in itself, like, the mystery behind it is quite cool. So, so I walked all around Stonehenge and took some pictures, and then, just kind of admired it. And then got back on the little shuttle bus, and then went back to the visitor center. So, it's like 2 hours, and when I was told that the bus would stop for 2 hours in Stonehenge and then return, I was like, well, what? How am I, like, it's a grouping of rocks, like, how is that going to take 2 hours? But really, it was, like, by the time that I walked around and came back, and I had packed some food that I had bought at the supermarket, and so I had that at the visitor center before I got back on the bus. But yeah, it was a full 2 hours. There wasn't much dilly-dally that was possible. And then we got back on the bus, and then we got dropped back off in London. So I think I probably arrived there about just at the start of the trip. I want to say like 8 o'clock maybe. Yeah, 8 o'clock, and then we returned at near enough 3 o'clock. And on this bus, my bus buddy today was Kathy. And Kathy was a little tiny bit of a chatty Cathy, but that was all right. I didn't mind at all. She's just quit her job after like 20 years as a librarian or something crazy in Minneapolis. And she was lovely. Like, yeah, she was really nice. And I suspect she's probably at retirement age, but she had all these like big things that she was planning to do when she got back again, and so she had done on this little trip. She had done courses at Oxford and Cambridge, and then that's when she came down to London, and then so she was on her own, and yeah, she had lots to say. So one of the things that Kathy sort of alerted me to, and she didn't say any of this. This is my own little thoughts based on the things that she did. But when she first got on the bus, she's like, "Oh, what time does the bus get back here?" And so I had been given this little sheet of paper with all of this information, and because she was my bus buddy, I felt obliged to look after her and share some of these things with her. So I gave her the piece of paper, and I said, here's all the information you could ever possibly want to know about this little trip. And so she read it, and she's like, "Oh, it gets back at 4 o'clock?" And I'm like, "Oh, I hope not, because I've got things to do." And she looked, "What? Hey, what time is this?" And poor Kathy, she did not know how to read the time in a 24-hour format. So it said 14 something or other, and she genuinely had no idea how to read that. Like, no clue at all. And so and she had no sense of direction. Before we got off the bus, she's like, "Ian, I don't know how I'm ever going to find this bus again." And I'm like, "Kathy, you can't go too wrong. Like, this bus has business class written all over it." And like, there's not that many. There's maybe, I don't know, probably fewer than 10 buses that are in this visitor center car park. She's like, "I don't know if I can do it." I said, "Kathy, I will not let this bus leave until you are sat here right next to me on it." And she said, "Ian, you are my guardian angel." And she got off the bus, and she no idea where to go, absolutely none. And she was right. Like, she had no sense of direction. But it did make me think about how many things I must do in autopilot, or with some degree of confidence, that makes traveling a lot easier for me than it is for Kathy. I kind of get the impression that Kathy hasn't done a lot of travel. Otherwise, I think she would know the 24-hour time format and how to get around a little bit better. And to me, it just seems like it seems incredibly obvious, and I guess second nature. Like, I have that confidence in myself to be able to go, "Oh, even if I get myself in trouble, I'll be able to get myself out of trouble." And fair enough, like, I'm the guy that got on the wrong ferry going to the wrong place back in Greece. But I could just, like, if I imagined Kathy in that same situation where she's on a boat that's going to somewhere entirely different, I I can just see Kathy just like meltdown mode and not having any idea of how to go with that. So yeah, so it made me think a little bit about, I guess, the skills that are involved in traveling. And I noticed that when I'm traveling with Camille, we generally, like, there's just things that we do that seem to come very natural, and I don't find myself having to explain things or having to go, Camille, like, how could you not know this? And I think the same for her. With me, it's just kind of like, yeah, we know how to get around on the Paris metro, even though we may have never done that before, but it's the same general rules or ways of doing things, or at least like educated guesses as to how it might work. But yeah, Kathy didn't seem to have the same sorts of I guess the same sort of knowledge. And so that's possibly what I'm thankful. One of the things that I'm thankful for today is that I seem to be able to get myself out of things that could potentially go a little bit crazy. And today it was one of those days where there was probably 3 or 4 things that could have gone absolutely terribly wrong today. And there were moments during the day where I thought, wow, that could have been so much worse. An incredibly monumental amount of worseness. And somehow it all worked out. So I'm going to leave that for a moment. I may not even come back to that little topic of potentially monumental failures, but yeah. So after Stonehenge, totally. So big thoughts on Stonehenge. Totally worthwhile to go and check it out and to experience it. And it really, like, the weather made it even more. Oh, my eyes look really red tonight. I don't think they're that way normally. Stonehenge, because of like the wind and the spitty drizzle stuff and the really dark clouds, it added it was like the special effects behind it all, and it made it feel just even that much more real. So I want to say I probably would have preferred it on like a beautiful, hot, sunny day, but now that it's being lodged in my memory, hopefully forever and ever, or at least as long as I can hold on to it, it will be that mystical kind of crazy place where unknown things happen. So I like that. I like that that's how Stonehenge kind of gets implanted into my memory.